Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now. I've been an internet entrepreneur since at least 1996. Of course, I've been online since 1992. Never really understood economics, however. As a senior in high school, I took economics and failed just about every one of the tests in that class. I would take the test. It was multiple choice, answer the questions, guess, and usually not do very well. But the nice thing is my teacher would allow me to retest either that same day or maybe the next day in the library. It would often be the same test, potentially with the questions in a different order, sometimes with the answers in a different order. So I fine-tuned my skills in the memorization department. And despite taking the retests that way, I still only passed with a B-. Got an email here from Chris Brewster. He says, "Hey Chris, I emailed you a week or so ago about a paper I'm writing for my senior economics class. Again, I wanted to base my paper off a very different business model than what most of my classmates are doing, and I thought looking at a successful blogging service and online community would be quite interesting. I know you're very busy and receive mountains of emails, but I'd be very grateful if you could answer even a few of the questions below. Thanks a million, Chris Brewster." He writes this in bold, so apparently that's the section where I need to pay attention to. Chris, owning and operating a website is now something many people can take, for granted. They can all claim they can do this. Being successful, however, that's another matter entirely. I know you started LockerGnome.com some years ago in the early years of blogging. What brought you into operating this sort of business, and how did you begin? LockerGnome.com, when it started, was in 1996. There was no such thing as blogging, and I used email as a primary delivery vehicle for information. That, of course, is still around to an audience of 100,000 people plus. Certainly evolved, and in its current state, LockerGnome.com works. Still not happy with it. But not being a developer, not being a designer, I've kind of got to go with what's at my disposal, how I'm able to make it work. Well, kind of need help, just a little bit of help. And I've constantly been looking for partners and people who can help and assist make what I do even better. But what brought me into doing that is that nobody else was distributing information at that point in time. 1996, blogging wasn't around. Very few people had websites. I was sending out information that I found, interesting websites, tips and tricks, largely related to Windows. And at that point in time, 95 had been out for at least a year, 1996, 1995. There were very few of us who were really sharing that kind of info between one another. And so that's, largely how it kind of rose to interest levels and has stayed around for this long. Like I said, though, not happy with it. Hopefully I'm going to have adjusted those things sooner rather than later. Many people who are not technically savvy wonder how businesses that exist on the internet make any money, especially when the only content is being provided rather than products, or when only content is being provided rather than products. How have you cultivated relationships with advertisers, and how has the business changed over the years? Specifically, have you taken advantage of Google's AdSense program, and what do you think of it? Well, you make money by leveraging your assets, certainly creating content. Ad networks like Google AdSense make it stupid easy. But since it's so easy to make content, anybody's doing it, right? So you've got to figure out a value add, find a way to do it better than anybody else. And that is, again, leveraging your assets, not just relying on the assets you have on one website, but on others as well. The relationships I generate on Twitter are just as valid as the relationships I generate on Facebook. And the interest that I am able to cultivate or maintain is extremely relevant, whether it's happening on LockerGnome or whether it's happening on my blog, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere on the internet. You kind of have to think that your brand is distributed. LockerGnome is still around. It will be around for the foreseeable future, but as I said, I'm kind of embarrassed about it right now. It's not where I want it to be at this point in time. But I'm making do with what I got. It's certainly making money, through sponsorships. And of course, I take on various projects, consulting, or just tweaking one other thing that I'm doing over here, then tweaking another thing, then tweaking another thing. It's all about spinning plates, having more than one financial leg to stand on. LockerGnome.com is just one. The internet is always changing. Every day, new services and technologies are popping up faster than anyone can keep track. This means that existing internet services must always be changing to remain relevant. This is true. Making them much different, many of them brick and mortar businesses which may remain successful by doing the same old thing for decades. It's a little odd, but okay. Since your business exists on the internet, do you find you have to constantly adapt to these changing conditions? It appears you've adapted well, as you've made excellent use of services like YouTube, Ustream. He's I wasn't finished with the list, Wicket. He also said Twitter, to name a few. There are a lot of social networking services. Yes, I know I just don't interrupt me. I don't interrupt you. Well, just like he's saying, or he's trying to say. I mean, you've got to think outside of your box. I mean, the internet is your box, right? But you got to think beyond it. You got to think beyond one particular website. You've got to distribute your brand. You have to go to where the conversations are happening, right? And you got to engage the conversations. I mean, yes, I do a lot of broadcasting, but I do a lot of consuming too. And I'm very particular about what I choose to share because a lot of people follow me and I don't want to share something that I don't think is interesting at all. Try to choose interesting things. For me, that's always just been my eye on things, or creating tools and services that other people could use, whether I'm making money with it or it's a brand building exercise. Ultimately, you have to adapt. Some people who've known me for a decade or longer are upset that I'm not the same person I was a decade ago. Remember, I started in 1996 in an official capacity. It's now a little over a decade. Beyond that, about 12, 13 years. Some people are upset that I'm not the same person as I was 13 years ago. That's not my problem. Do you really feel that any competition exists between you and other bloggers, or does it seem that most of the content on the internet flows together? For example, a person may feel very loyal to a given newspaper and always buy the New York Times and never touch the Wall Street Journal. On the internet, however, just because a person reads arstechnica.com does not mean they won't also look at cnet.com, meaning that even though sites will make attempts to draw in more traffic, they aren't competing directly against anyone else. What do you think? Very astute observation, Chris. I believe that's the absolute truth. When a link goes out, it's a link. Doesn't matter where that link sits. It's the information that sits on that link. It's all about staying regular, staying relevant, realizing that you don't really have competition. I mean, yes, eyeballs are eyeballs, but it's your value add. What are you doing that's different? What are you doing that's bringing an interesting perspective to the global conversation? I certainly sneeze out links from bloggers who are on lockergnome.com or geeks.pirillo.com in an effort to promote them because they're using the tools that I've given them, lockergnome.com or, as I said, geeks.pirillo.com. So, I know I'm giving rise to voice that they otherwise would not be able to get because I've got a lot of people who follow me. If people use my tools, there's a greater chance that they're going to get seen. I mean, that's kind of the power I'm able to provide and share openly. I mean, and some people take advantage of that. I don't like those people, and I know who they are. But it's all about having a balance. I would rather get along with my colleagues than view them as competition. I've always viewed people less as competition and more as colleagues. I treat people that way. There are certain people that do things better than I can. But then again, I also don't like to compare because we all have a different set of circumstances, a different set of skills. I'm always looking for the next thing. Always willing to try. Always. It's never going to change. I'm never going to retire. Running a business or service on the internet is drastically different than any other type of business, as we've already established. What are your major costs in running LockerGnome, chris.pirillo.com, geeks.pirillo.com, etc.? Do you have any formal employees, or do you run most everything yourself? How do you deal with taxes and reporting information on your business? Well, it's a business. It's the bottom line. We've set things up so that we have both contract employees and employees. We keep things small to run effectively, keep our costs extremely low, don't really have an office per se. I mean, I work here out of my home, and as do most of the people who work, with us, as I said, is in contract capabilities or in those constructs. It's a business. You got to report taxes. You've got to file paperwork, and you got to do all these things. It's crucial. I mean, there's nothing that's different about it. The major costs, I would say, are largely the people that we pay for the work that they do, and they do excellent work. Otherwise, we wouldn't be paying them. We wouldn't keep them around if they weren't doing a good job. One other quick question. It could be argued that you are now the most famous for your 24/7 live video stream from your home office. What did starting the stream change for you, if anything? It's a good question. I don't know if that's what I'm most famous for. I think I'm most famous for those stupid Tech TV blooper clips, which I've been trying to outlive now. And some people on YouTube don't even realize that I used to host a television show. I'm grateful for that, by the way, if less people know that I used to do that, because I do so much, online work and video now. Uh, what did starting this change for me? Well, it certainly made me more aware that there were a lot of people out there who were interested in stuff that I was doing, or certainly being a part of the community, making them feel not so alone. I've had a lot of people who don't really care so much about me, don't really like me all that much, but they'll keep my stream on in the background because I'm background noise. They find my typing or humming off tune to the songs that are playing in the background or saying something, whatever. They find that comforting because they're working at home, they're working alone, and they just don't feel so alone. So I guess, for me, what it changed was my ability to engage people in a very real sense. I'm not a monkey. I'm not going to take requests on command. I mean, I'll do just about anything for a donation, sure, but I don't just take random requests. I mean, I read email. I certainly don't always participate in the chat room because inevitably when I turn to the chat room, someone's doing something silly and I just don't have time for it. I'm working. I'm doing other things. Creating other things, reading other things, doing other things in general. This is just a part of my life, right? It's not recommended for everybody. So I'm a little voyeur. I'm also, a little exhibitionistic. I mean, it's a little of both, right? So it's just the internet, right? I'm having fun. Doesn't really cost me anything to do, so why not do it? Sell sponsorship against it, make everybody feel happy, bring the community together in some way, make them feel not so alone. I don't know. I'm rambling at this point. What else is new? My email address is chris@pirillo.com if you have other general questions for me. Chris, good luck with your paper. As he's mentioned in here, I've got a variety of sites, including one where you can join, geeks.pirillo.com. You can start a blog there if you want. Lockernome.com is, currently, as I said, kind of under construction in a general sense, still relevant, just in a different way right now. We're working on it. Don't worry. It's the internet. Things can always change in a heartbeat. Of course, you're also welcome to stop by the chat room if you'd like to be a part of the live video feed that's going out over the web 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even if I'm not here. Chat room is typically talking tech at live.pirillo.com. We'll see you later.